On this Tuesday morning as we get going. And Cyber Monday yesterday, J Dog, 20 billion spent. Giving Tuesday, well, obviously it's going to be a lot less, but locally it's important for a lot of nonprofits. Giving Tuesday today, money may be tight, but that's our poll question up on X. Do you plan to give today? Yes or no? And we'll have results from yesterday coming up. But we are looking at some snow today for sure. And it's interesting, depending on where you are. I spoke with one of our guests who's coming on in a little bit. We're also going to hear from one of the sergeant, Mark Sutmeyer, New Hampshire State Police, in a moment live out of Troop B, busy part of the state. On the roadways and the travel in a moment. We thank our friends at the State Police and Auto Fair for those updates on public safety, safe roads. And also Wakefield, about an inch and a quarter so far falling. Dover, Seacoast, it's starting up. It started early this morning, a little after 7. We are in the capital, J-Dog, and I can see pavement from our studio windows out there, so it's not really coming down as much as I thought it might be, but during the day, the snow is going to continue. You've heard Mike Pomp this morning in the Morning Information Center. Snow is going to continue. And now the accumulations, J-Dog, it seems to be, and I'm not the exact scientist, but neither are the meteorologists. It seems to be like a 3 to 6 feel because we're going to continue with some wet, heavier snow later tonight. But we'll see. It seems to be a wet, heavy feel. I'm sorry, a 3 to 6 feel versus 5 to 10. But different pockets could see more, some less. I just doesn't seem. This is not like a big nor'easter, but it is the first sort of snowfall of the season where it's accumulating. And as I said yesterday, we're going to hear from our friends at the state police in a moment. The traffic circles I saw again today in Lee. I'm just going to say it. Instead of coming slow where it gets greasy and slippery in the circle, I saw a Volkswagen Jetta come in, didn't slow down, spun around, and went flying out of the circle and almost hit 2 cars. So slow down. I know it's a novel concept. Also, breaking news. I guess you heard it. You're hearing it first here. Executive Counselor John Stephen of Manchester and the Stephen family. But John Stephen has been a regular on my show and hopefully will be again soon. But he is battling a pretty serious health situation. He was jogging, and we're going to hear from fellow Executive Counselor Joe Kenny in a moment or two to update us on his good friend, Counselor John Stephen. And this is where I ask everyone to put the political sabers aside. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. John Stephen, the people who serve in the Attorney General's office or executive counselor or state House of Representatives or state senators, they're not doing it for the money. It's pure public service, unlike Washington, pure public service. And John Stephen has been serving others in his community pretty much his whole adult life, as his family has. He's a very well thought of, energetic person. If you remember on the show, he was so instrumental in trying to deal with the bail conditions for violent offenders after the Berlin, New Hampshire murder of a young woman by her estranged husband who had been stalking her. And John Stephen, very outspoken in fighting for bail type reform, or when someone's violent, stalking an individual, making sure they're not out to hurt or harm, or in the Berlin, New Hampshire case, kill. So John Stephen, still in the hospital this morning, executive counselor, the governor and executive counselor. I think they have a meeting tomorrow. Obviously, he's not going to be there, but we're going to hear from Joe Kenny in just a few moments live on John's condition. And as I said in a post last night for the show this morning, the Stephen family, Bobby Stephen, John, his brother, they've done so much in Greater Manchester for so many years. Wonderful, wonderful family. J-Dog, please let me know when our friends from the New Hampshire State Police are on. We're going to get an update from the roadways, but as we get going this morning, it's going to continue throughout the day. And maybe later this afternoon, early evening, as it gets dark earlier, as you remember, probably the messiest. But it felt like going into last night, this could be more today. Started early. It's pretty much across our region, but it feels like it's in that 3 to 6 range, and it may be 4 or 5 inches in some places. So we'll keep you posted, 3 to 6 as we get going today. It does wind down or clears out overnight. Tomorrow looks to be pretty nice and clear. We got a packed show for you. This morning, I forgot to mention, J-Dog, we are going to hear from William Hinkle at Eversource right after John Decker, J-Dog, right after John Decker at 9:35 this morning. Our own White House correspondent. A lot going on as it pertains to Venezuela. We have negotiators in Russia dealing with Putin and his team, trying to get a deal in the Ukraine. I'm not a big optimist that you can trust Vladimir Putin on any lasting deal, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. And of course, the situation in Venezuela is heating up. We'll have a lot more this morning, but Mother Nature starting the day. J Dog, right now, we're looking out of the Capitol, and you're in through the glass here. I'm looking out, and I don't see it's not a lot of snow coming down in the Capitol, but again, across our region, it's fairly steady, and it doesn't take much. Doesn't take much to cause these accidents. I mentioned the Epping traffic circle this morning and the car that came in too fast. Like I said yesterday, people forget how to drive. All right, I want to bring in, and I thank our friends at the New Hampshire State Police. I want to bring in one of the sergeants, and I believe it's Troop B, the New Hampshire State Police, and we want to bring in Sergeant Mark Suttmeyer with Troop B. And I thank you. I know you're busy, and I'm hoping, Sergeant, it's not one of these days that by the end of the day, across our region, your troops and troop commanders are reporting, a couple hundred accidents. But what can you tell us this morning, Sergeant? Yep. Well, I do appreciate it. And as I say before, um, I think people do forget. They forget how to drive when it gets. You probably have better intel than I do on what are you expecting for the day, the afternoon? I know schools, I guess they call it the remote the remote learning day. A lot of schools and people called off stuff because we had plenty of advance notice on this forecast. But what are you expecting for the day, the forecast on the roads today, Sergeant? And do you also see what I see? I think sometimes people just sort of forget how to drive out there. All right. And at this point, is there a part of the state or region that's sort of worse than others? All right. Well, I appreciate it. Well, Sergeant, I'll let you get out there and do your thing. But again, slow down is probably the biggest thing. Is that what you see when people just get going too fast and they come into a slick area or, traffic lights or a stop or the vehicle in front of them? All right. Sergeant Suttmeyer, thanks for joining us, New Hampshire State Police. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Again, I guess it's maybe a little better news as we get going this morning that it's not as messy out there as of now. By the way, speaking of the state police, we think of our friends at Auto Fair. And by being a Pulse listener, we have some great deals for you. So we a couple vehicles that are used. These already sold a week or two ago, the first ones we put up, but they have a new there's two vehicles, and I'm going to give you a phone number to call. Being a Pulse listener, you're going to hear about these first. And the price of new vehicles is so expensive. Some of these vehicles are pickup trucks well over $50,000 for a new vehicle. So, how about a 2020 Chevy Silverado 1500 custom gray with 50,962 miles, priced at 27,235. If you're interested in that Chevy Silverado 1500 custom, the Chevy truck 2020. It's a Chevy pickup truck 2020 gray with 50,962 miles, priced at $27,235. If you're interested in taking that for a drive and test and check it out as a Pulse listener, call Debbie Roy at Auto Fair Honda, and her office number, direct number, 603-634-4726, 603-634-4726, 603-634-4726. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. We'll come back. We'll update you on the health condition of Executive Counselor John Stephen and his good friend, Executive Counselor Joe Kenny, going to update us on a very well thought of member of the community who's battling after a pretty serious health scare while jogging in Manchester coming out of the weekend. Back on the Pulse of an H in a moment. Quick update. I was corrected by our next caller, a good friend of Governor and Executive Counselor John Stephen, Executive Counselor Joe Kenny, that when Councilor Stephen was jogging. It was actually in Florida, coming out of the holiday weekend, not Manchester, suffering a heart attack. And we're going to get an update from his good friend now live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an age, Executive Councilor Joe Kenny. And of course, the two of you teamed so much coming out of that terrible murder in Berlin, New Hampshire, on looking at bail and bail reform with violent offenders. Good morning, Councilor. Thank you for sharing some thoughts on your good friend. What can you tell us on how Executive Councilor John Stephen is recovering, how he's doing, and your thoughts? Yeah, so much energy, so much determination. And as I posted last night on my show page, and I've known John in his different roles of serving the public, his father, Bobby Stephen, the whole family in Manchester, done so much to help really the community, the community at large. And I think it's important to put down the Democrat or Republican after a name and just think about, you and what you do. And Councilor Stephen, I know neither one of you are doing it for the money. And I know it's true public service. So maybe you could speak a little bit about John's energy and commitment to do right to help people. Yeah, and Joe Kenny, Executive Counselor, speaking about Executive Counselor John Stephen, you just answered my last question. Is he in Florida or back home? He's in Florida. And whenever you were going to be on with him to update us on the Berlin, New Hampshire, because you're the counselor for that county, Carol, in the North Country, and that awful, awful murder of that beautiful young woman who was so popular in town, the restaurant owner, by her estranged husband. Every time I'd have John on pushing for Why was this guy out? Why was this guy out? Why was this guy out? And he told about another situation in Manchester. He always said, "Can I have my good friend Joe Kenny on with me, Jack, on your show? Can you also have Joe Kenny on with me?" He always wanted you on with him, and I thought that was pretty cool. Well, thoughts and prayers to John and his family. Great family, recovering and hopefully recovering in Florida as we speak. But I know it's still a serious condition or situation. And I thank you for the update, Counselor Kenny. All right, again, there's a lot going on this morning. We got a little bit of a break in the action in the Capitol right now, J Dog. Are you seeing the same thing I am? Not a lot of heavy stuff coming down right now. So give it time. But this is going to move through. Maybe it's feeling like we may get a little less than they were thinking late yesterday afternoon, but in that 3 to 6 range, and I think we might get a couple more later on this afternoon, early evening. But when we come back, we are going to be joined by our own White House correspondent John Decker and Eversource William Hinkle and a whole lot more. Back in a moment.
Jack on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back, and we're going to hear from John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Latest on Ukraine and trying to get a deal. I think it now sits in with Vladimir Putin's team, which doesn't make me feel real confident in terms of verifying, in terms of trusting, but we'll see. Hopeful that something can stop this, but we'll see. And then Venezuela, 11:10, we got a live report on the latest as things escalate there and the whole drug cartel, drug trafficking, Maduro, Venezuela. We got a heavy force and keep an eye on that. A lot of people are too busy to pay attention to that. We'll come back. We hear from our friends, I believe, at Eversource. Going to be coming up. This is not the kind of storm that they really were predicting or forecasting a lot of power outages because we're not seeing like a nor'easter, with heavy wet snow on the branches sitting, packing in for 2 days. This is a smaller system, first system of the year, though. But we did hear from the New Hampshire State Police out of the gate this morning on the show that they're not seeing as many slipping and sliding accidents. And I think it's for two reasons. One, um, the snow is falling during the day. A lot of schools have been called off and a lot of other stuff. People are doing the old, what we call in this day and age, the remote learning thing. And it's during the day. And also, we had plenty of forecasting going into today. It didn't just start at 4 this morning unexpectedly, where you get a lot of the accidents, but still, a lot of people are out and about. Just slow down. As Sergeant Mark Suttmeyer, the New Hampshire State Police said, just slow down. Speed is the problem. And on days like today, got a lot going on. I wanted to get on Michael Graham, New Hampshire Journal, but I think we're just too full. But he did a pretty interesting story on something I've been talking about. And we're going to come back on this in terms of the shooting of the National Guard, Senator Shaheen's position on opposition to increased Afghanistan vetting. Also, some of the other stuff on what I posted a video the other day on how it's amazing. It's a modern day political miracle that New Hampshire has no income, no sales tax. And we are somehow able to survive. When you look at Maine and Massachusetts, the city and town planners are whining pretty loudly that where's all the money? Where's all the money? We have all these taxes. Where's the money? And I noticed Vermont, state of Vermont now, saying that property taxes are going to go up quite a bit. Where's all the money? They have all these taxes. Vermont, Maine, and Mass. Where's all the money? They have all these taxes. New Hampshire, no income, no sales tax. And New Hampshire's surviving. It's a modern day political miracle. It really is. In Maine, I don't want to list all the taxes they brought in. They brought in so many taxes this last go around because they don't know how to cut anything in the state of Maine. And they have high property taxes. They tax legal cannabis. ATVs went up, hunting and fishing licenses, prescription medications, pensions, streaming services. So if you watch Netflix, 5.5%. They raised all these taxes, plus an income tax, plus a sales tax. Vermont has, like Massachusetts, they have a couple of graduated income taxes. It's not good enough in Vermont or Mass. Mass has what, the millionaires tax. Oh my goodness. All the taxes in Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts, and the city, town planners and managers are saying, where's all the money? Where's all the money? Check your state capitals and your big spending bureaucracies. That's where your money is. All right. J-Dog, are we going to be joined by John Decker, our White House correspondent? And also, what's that? Okay. We're going to go to our friends at Eversource. Is John Decker, our White House correspondent? I don't think he's dealing with any snow down in D.C., but William Hinkle with Eversource, region's largest utility, with some updates. And William, thanks for joining us. It's the first sort of snow system of our season, but not the big nor'easter that sits on the branches that causes a lot of power outages, correct? Yeah. William Hinkle, Eversource. William, if you could stay with us one moment, and I want to talk about some energy efficiency, maybe with the holiday period right here. I already see a lot of extra lights out there. 'Tis the season. John Decker. Hold on, William, one sec. You can listen in. John Decker, our own White House correspondent, live, and I just trying to get the latest on our efforts. Really, now with Vladimir Putin and his team trying to broker some kind of a deal when it comes to the war in Ukraine. John. Yeah, and I'm just not. I mean, Vladimir Putin is a pretty shrewd. Says one thing, does another character. So we'll see, John. Yeah, I know. Right. And I worry if does continue for actually, you get NATO issues, concerns, neighbor. All right. Thank you, John. All right. William Henkel, Eversource, just joining us this morning. We had Sergeant Mark Sutmeyer, Troop B, New Hampshire State Police, out of the gate. Not a real bad commuting morning. A lot of schools off, and this one might be a case of a lot of noise ahead of the storm, a lot of forecasting. It's the first kind of, I guess, plowable, or you got to shovel a little bit, but it might not be as much, but it is going to continue. And Eversource fully staffed. But William, thanks for being with us. Good morning, Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Let's talk a little bit about energy efficiency that some of homeowners can look at, and any tips you might have, because there might be a few extra lights on the house, the garage, or the lawn, or the fence. Yeah, sure. No, no. Yeah. And right, I was going to say, yeah, we're not seeing like the heavy winds, 40, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts. It's not a 2-day nor'easter, but Like you said earlier, if someone drives too fast and they drive into a utility pole, that can knock out power in a given area. What about any, just before I let you go, William, any energy efficiency tips? All right, William Hinkle, appreciate it. If people want to learn more, probably the best place is to head to the home site. All right, thank you, William. All right. Before we go to a break, we're going to hear from our friends at Alpine Gold. Adam, Alpine Gold, alpinegold.com. They also sponsor our morning poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H, which is simply this morning. I know Cyber Monday, people spent a lot. Today's Giving Tuesday. A lot of the nonprofits, do you intend to give locally on Giving Tuesday to help support the nonprofits today? Yes or no? Alpinegold.com and use the term as one word, the pulse at checkout. Another benefit of being a pulse listener, the pulse at checkout for free shipping if you want to order some gold and silver. You know, when William was talking about decorating outside your home, always one of my favorite scenes between now and Christmas will always be the Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase when he's out as Clark Griswold decorating in the beginning with the staple gun, staples his flannel shirt to the roof and then slides down the gutter with his I forget what's her first name? Dreyfus's neighbor there, J Dog. Yeah, yeah, she was a character, that whole thing. So that's a good one. I don't want to weigh in on too much of this stuff, but it is irresistible. I do chuckle in some of the places around. Thankfully, not as much. Although Durham, New Hampshire, I'm not sure. I don't know if they still in Durham if they call it a holiday tree because people might be offended. Let me just tell you, it was a Christmas tree. It is a Christmas tree. It will always be a Christmas tree. I don't care what you celebrate. Christmas, Christ, Christmas tree. It is a Christmas tree. Over the holidays, it's a Christmas tree. I'm just pointing that out. Some of these cities and this political correctness stuff. Oh my goodness, we're gonna light up the tree. Okay. Hey Alexa, hey Google, play the Pulse of an H. Adam will be on deck. Alpine Gold. Top of the 10 o'clock. We'll go out to the Seacoast. Alicia Preston Xanthopoulos, Seacoast Online. Back in a moment.
Outdoor from Greater Manchester to Greater Boston is online at outdoorpride.com. Now, back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. Now, if you're in a pocket like the capital region right now where it's really not coming down much at all, by this afternoon, there'll be more snow coming. Not as much, I guess, as they were forecasting going into yesterday afternoon. It looks like it's going to be more in the 3 to 6 inches range, maybe another inch or so tonight. It does end on the overnight. It really starts to dissipate by midnight or early morning. So tomorrow morning should not be an issue. Tomorrow, Wednesday, looks pretty nice, actually. So we'll have the latest for you. Appreciate Executive Counselor, Governor Executive Counselor Joe Kenny calling in earlier, sharing an update on the medical condition of his good friend, fellow Executive Counselor John Stephen, who suffered a serious heart attack while jogging in Florida on Sunday. He's still in a hospital in Florida. And Joe Kenny was giving us an update on Counselor John Stephen out of Manchester, but in Florida. He was in Florida when he suffered a heart attack while jogging, and I guess an alert motorist was helpful, and he's in the hospital this morning in Florida, and Joe Kenny was giving us an update. And thoughts to the Stephen family. They've done so much in Greater Manchester for so many years. His father, his brother, his family, John Stephen in particular, done so much over the years. Health and Human Service Commissioner. He's done the criminal justice stuff, attorney. I mean, just a lot of stuff he's done. And current executive counselor, recovering hopefully and doing okay down in Florida after a pretty serious heart attack. So as we get going this morning, J-Dog will let me know if we're going to be hearing from Adam with Alpine Gold, but check out Alpine Gold, and I'll take that opportunity. I mentioned earlier, there are definite perks, benefits from listening to the Pulse of an H, my show here. There are benefits, I guess, season ticket holder benefits. One of them is going to be this Friday. We're going to hear from our friends on top of Mount Washington and the Weather Observatory. It's a segment that's exclusive to my show each week from the Mount Washington Observatory on top of Mount Washington, the tallest peak in the Northeast. And we're going to hear on some of the great weather facts as we go into now December. It was one of the snowiest Novembers they've recorded. And on Friday, not now, you're going to be able to go to our Pulse of an H in an app and qualify. But you got to go to the app. Not now. We'll tell you on Friday. Not now, to get some ski tickets at Bretton Woods. Ski for free at Bretton Woods. And if you look at the cost of ski tickets today, you're going to want to try and get those after our Mount Washington Observatory segment on Friday. One of the other perks I mentioned, Alpine Gold, the checkout. Alpine Gold, just use the Pulse, one word at checkout, and you can get free shipping if you order some gold and silver. Good time to do that. But our friends at Auto Fair, we heard from the State Police, Troop B, Sergeant Mark Suttmeyer earlier this morning live with a road update. Not as bad as they were thinking this morning. A lot of schools are off, the remote learning thing, but slow down. Speed is the number one issue, even if things get a little bit slick. But Auto Fair and the State Police will be joined Thursday by the State Police as well. But Auto Fair likes to give you a little Pulse of New Hampshire listener thank you and perk. So the Pulse Deal of the Week from listening to from Auto Fair, from listening to my show, Good Morning Hampshire, the Pulse of an Inch is a 2020 Chevy Silverado 1500 custom grade pickup truck. 50,962 miles, 27,235. And that's a good deal because that will go a lot more, as you know, maybe another couple 100,000 miles. So if you want a new pickup, a good used pickup truck in good condition, that Chevy, it's a good pickup truck. Call Debbie. Tell her you listen to the Pulse and Jack. Call Debbie Roy. Debbie, just call Debbie. Here's her direct line, Auto Fair, Honda in Manchester. Her direct line, 603-634-4726. 603-634-4726. Tell her you want to take a test drive and look at that Chevy 1500 custom gray Silverado. And her direct line, 634-4726, 27,235. That's not a lot of miles for a good pickup truck. So check it out. I don't know if you've seen the price of new vehicles. There have been stories about it, all-time highs. Guessing that vehicle new is probably closer to 60 grand than 50. So there you go. All right. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an H. J-Dog, I will tell you, other than watching kind of a crazy first half in the sense that the New York Football Giants, is that what you call them? Patriots win that game fairly easily. What was it 33-15? I don't know. I didn't really watch the second half. J-Dog, that was a weird game. I watched. Was it just me? I mean, this is what it looked like to me, J-Dog. Now, I know they don't have Scattaboo, the running back, who's phenomenal for the Giants. I was just going to say that, J-Dog. I'm watching like, an Ole Miss college quarterback trying to play in the NFL, running around, and they were legal, good hits on the sideline before he went out of bounds, running on the sidelines. The NFL's even put out videos, they said, during the game, telling the players and the quarterbacks, if you're going to run, you're an open target in the field, get out of bounds early, get out of bounds. There'll be big penalties if you're hit out of bounds. But if you stay in bounds, and there were a couple legal clean hits by Patriot players because he stayed in bounds and they just hit him pretty good on the side, knocking him out, goes flying. And then, of course, the Giant players want to fight, but it was just a goofy, strange game. And, he's a pretty confident young quarterback. He reminds me of Joe Burrow a little bit, but he's not Joe Burrow, if you know what I mean. No. And I get a lot to learn, and I don't know if he can learn it there at the New York Giants. But Patriots, J-Dog, who would have thought 11? I mean, who would have thought, J-Dog? Nobody had a J-Dog. And, it doesn't mean much right now, but it's already a season that if they don't get another win, which I think they will, they get a bye week now. Who would have predicted this? And we'll see where it goes. All right, Alicia Presses Anthopoulos, Seacoast Online on deck. We got some other great stuff coming up in the 10 o'clock hour. Mike Cody looking at New England's economy, New Hampshire Business Review. Rory O'Neill has a live report on the latest in Venezuela. We heard from John Decker earlier, the latest on the efforts to try and get a deal with Putin and Russia on the ending the war in Ukraine. I'm kind of pessimistic because Putin, every time push comes to shove, he sets a different line or says something different. And I just don't have much trust that you can trust Putin and the Russians. I don't know. We'll see. But the efforts are continuing. We had John Decker live. Good Morning Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Tomorrow morning, J-Dog, I don't know if you knew this. Well, you don't, so I'm going to tell you. We're gonna talk about the cost of everything. We have a former EPA chief of staff tomorrow morning live at 9:08, 9:10, and talk about affordability, energy policies, and any other discussions. We'll hear from a former EPA chief on that. And Mandy, I'm going to learn how to pronounce her name and read about her a little bit before tomorrow's show. But Gunasakara, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but close enough. And she'll be joining us live talking about energy and affordability. And I look at states around us, unbelievable story that is not really being covered. Vermont story today that they're going to have property taxes are going to go through the roof in Vermont. Do you know how many income taxes they already have in Vermont? You know how many taxes they have in Vermont? How about Maine? All the taxes, Mass, high property taxes, and they have all these taxes. It wasn't supposed to be the case when you have all these taxes. Oh, we're going to have lower property taxes. Let me tell you something. Taxes never go down. Taxes only go one way. Taxes never go down. Let me tell you, taxes never go down. Entitlements don't go away either. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Got some snow updates for you right around the corner. 10 o'clock hour next, right here.